CS, we have the rumble from the mountain. Also investigating the investigation by a parliamentary committee. Now once more investigations into the KEMSA scandal. Is this what the doctor ordered? Plus, it wasn't me. Why everyone is running away from the runaway fuel prices. Whose monkey is it? On the kicker tonight, a world without consequences. The joys of being a Kenyan politician. Yvonne takes on our zero tolerance to the fight against corruption. Gachuri punches into the talk without the walk in Parliament. On the angle tonight, where are the compassionate leaders? Jamila is off tonight, and our sign language gangster on the show this Thursday is Wilson Mushora.
Mulisikia nikisema mimi nasikiza watu wa Kirinyaga. Simulisikia? Na nikasema mimi nitafanya vile watu wa Kirinyaga wanasema. Mimi nitawauliza ndugu zangu na dada zangu kwa sababu nasikia mmesema mtanirudisha. Mnataka nikuje na chama gani huku Kirinyaga? Nikuje na chama gani huku Kirinyaga? Nikikuja na hiyo chama mtanirudisha? Wangapi watanirudisha kwa viti ya 2022? Mimi nitasema sio mimi nilisema nauliza wananchi vile wananchi wanasema, hiyo ndio njia tutafuata, si ndio?
So Francis, being a politician makes you do impossible things, you know, like conducting an opinion poll at a public rally. I don't know if rallies are still allowed, but that's story for another day. But interesting developments coming out of Kirinyaga with particular regard to the governor there. I mean, we have seen her rather interesting journey. There was a time she was hobnobbing, some people would say, with a DP at a certain point, and then the handshake came, and there she was. She was one of those faces. What was that group called? There was a group of female leaders that was backing the handshake, and then she supported BBI. Embrace. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And then she supported the BBI rather vigorously. In fact, as late as a few days before that damning judgment from the Court of Appeal, she actually was even saying that Raila Odinga perhaps needed just 40% or less, and they will be able to back him to run away with Central, as it were, and the presidency. And then after the judgment, she has this interesting cryptic message almost that for some of us it's a moment of reflection. And here we are now. I mean, a very interesting short last couple of weeks for Anne Waiguru. What's going on?
One word: survival, nothing else. Looking at where your bet is best placed, number one. Number two, interests. Where do your interests lie? And number three, what are you looking at? What is your ground telling you? It has nothing to do with policies. It has nothing to do with ideologies. It has nothing to do with anything else. Simple and clear interests, where your interests are best served. We will play a soundbite shortly where the Kirinyaga governor said something very interesting about hiring or renting a Kikuyu. Yeah? Roba has that bite. Let's play it first.
People have seen today Mount Kenya voting as one block. Kirinyaga has voted unanimously. Other counties have voted unanimously. I said it before, I will say it again. You can rent a Kikuyu, but you cannot buy a Kikuyu. Bottom line, they will still vote for their own people. They know what is good for the region, and they will stand.
Interesting. Not so long ago, during that
and by the way, that was with regard to BBI, the BBI vote.
Yes, yeah. Yes. There was also another event for the musicians in Gatanga, and she repeated the same things. In Nakuru, with Raila Odinga, Governor Lee Kinyanjui of Nakuru, and a host of other leaders, she said the same things. So what has changed? Survival, nothing else.
Interesting, Linus, how the Court of Appeal judgment seems to have upset the apple cart in many respects and wrong-footed many politicians. I mean, look, this is a direct consequence of what happened in the courts on that 20th day of last month, because before that judgment, there was a certain political arrangement that all these politicians thought would come into play, and suddenly we see a very unsure Waiguru there, quite different from the sort of vibrant, almost cocky Anne Waiguru we saw pre that judgment.
I actually think if the ruling had gone the other way, the political scene would be more frantic than this. Remember what BBI was going to do, like some politicians say, it was going to create positions, very many positions. And what that will mean is there will be more than one formation with so much to offer. You know, you can be offered position of deputy prime minister in some coalition and not the other. We would by now be having about 3 or 4 formations, each offering these politicians something. But for me, I read
now
local...
the gates is narrow.
It's very narrow. It's very narrow because basically it's exactly the same way the Constitution of Kenya 2010 defined it, period. There'll be president, running mate, and then a cabinet. So it's that narrow for now. But I read local politics in what we are seeing in Kirinyaga. There are some events that we could interpret to be resulting to what we are seeing now with Waiguru shifting positions every now and then. There is this curious presence of interior PS Kibicho, and then there was talk of an alliance between Kibicho and Ngirishi. Then there is Martha Karua, who has always been a factor in Kirinyaga politics. So is it a case now of Waiguru also becoming displaced by some of these other players that are coming into the scene? It's very, very possible that because there is some crowding at the top in Kirinyaga politics, Waiguru has to look for her space. Now, I don't know whether strictly we can say she has moved to UDA. Like you said at the beginning, it was an opinion poll, an open-air opinion poll.
On location?
On location, asking people, nikuja na hiyo chama. I didn't hear her mention the letters UDA.
Yeah. And the crowd was shouting it, so...
She left it to the crowd too.
And you know how it goes, you know, later when it happens, because right now what she's been saying, I mean, even if you look at her timeline on Twitter, she's saying, I'm listening to my people. Yeah. So she has all these meetings and then she says she's listening.
Yes, and then I also wanted to just mention the fact that this has been a very interesting transition for Anne Waiguru because she's not a typical politician. She only came to the scene in 2013 when she was named devolution CS. Before that, she was a technocrat, basically, in treasury and in the background. And what we have been watching is a transition to the murky politics of the country. And she has been positioning herself as a person of consequence in central Kenya politics. This also tells us something has changed about how we generate leaders. In the past, it would be members of parliament that have served over a long period of time. And, you know, it's quite procedural. There is some pattern to the growth.
Formation, yes.
Yes, and it takes time. 9 years later, you know, what I could see also here is because everyone seems to be offering Central Kenya the running mate's position.
In line with the very same thing that Linus is talking about, she has said herself that she wants to defend the gubernatorial seat in Kirinyaga. And then if she intends to move to UDA, if that opinion poll that was conducted live on location is anything to go by, because we hear people at the background telling her UDA. She doesn't mention the party by name, but she says, hiyo chama mmesema, hiyo mmesema. There is already the woman rep, Wangui Ngirishi, in UDA and has consistently been with the deputy president. So even if she was to move to UDA, it would not be the ticket won't be hers for the taking. She would have to contend for a nomination with Ngirishi.
Quoted as saying, yeah, come on board, but brace yourself for a real fight.
Actually,
brace yourself for a bruising battle, that's what she said.
On her Facebook timeline, she used these words, kwani ni kesho, like bring it on. So still it will be a contest before the contest, so to say. Then the nominations will be more or less like what we saw for the Jubilee ticket in 2017. So it is not moving from a point of, not being sure to a point of safety. You're moving from one place to another contest that this one I'm getting into a contest because here's Ngirishi, he's Waiguru. If she was to contest for the UDA ticket, it won't be a very easy race, so to say.
No, indeed, and even the race for the gubernatorial seat, regardless of which seat, which party ticket she gets, won't be an easy one. Two things for me. I suspect we will see quite a bit of this movement, not just with Anne Waiguru, but with a number of other politicians, particularly those who are in the BBI bandwagon, who had seen, a lot of seats for them, I think, like has already been said. And so now you move from this battle for a national idea such as BBI, and then now you come back to politics as local, which, it always is. And then look at the rise and the increasing prominent role that Martha Karua has begun to play, in national politics and particularly in regional politics as well. Now the spokesperson, that she was elected to just this week in all of the meetings she's been having. And remember, another thing that Martha Karua has going for her, she's a party leader. She will get a party ticket very easily, surely.
No contest there
with
Narc Kenya. And then being elevated to that status after sitting down with all of these party leaders, Mwangi Kiunjuri, Moses Kuria, party leader, maybe not so much, but fronting the Chama cha Kazi, party, as well as...
He's the party leader.
He's the party leader, right?
He has to
and then you take a look at all of these meetings, indeed, they've been having, not just, within the region, but there have been meetings with Muhisa Kitui, with Kivutha Kibwana, and so here she is positioning herself at that level. That's why you hear statements from Anne Waiguru, like, you stick and play on the national level and not do it here locally. And then, like you said, there's Spirit Ngirishi, who is a big threat, who has stood with the deputy president, for a long time, and so, you're coming into UDA. If UDA is where she will go, what are you bringing on board? Jubilee is a party whose future in the next election, whose influence in central Kenya region is a big question, at the moment. And then just another thing about, the evolution of Waiguru, the politician, before our very eyes in such a short span of time. I remember the interview I had with her in 2016, asking her if she wanted to go into politics, and her words to me were, no, never. I'm a technocrat for life. A year later, she announced she was running for the seat.
This is a very political answer.
It was a very political answer. And then here we are.
She might still say she's a technocrat.
Who knows? Like they say, once a journalist, always a journalist, even if you're not practicing. But then here she is, 2017 to date, and a lot has happened. And she's sort of trying to find that footing. And what is happening is that it's happening before the country's very eyes. This is something a lot of politicians go through, but hardly at this level.
But one has to imagine, Francis, then, that whatever it is that was going on with that handshake and BBI, then there must have been something quite significant that she was eyeing, because, I mean, I remember that statement that she made came within minutes, or shall we say hours, of that BBI judgment that, in light of what has happened, some of us will now have to reconsider or reflect and review our options and that sort of thing. In a sense, to say that a lot of her political options hinged quite a bit on what was going to happen in the Court of Appeal, which is an interesting insight into what thinking may have been going on around this BBI thing, and what the individual people who are pushing it were probably angling for. So it wasn't just about all these other things that they told us, but you can clearly tell now that people like her were not in it necessarily because they believed that BBI was going to be useful to all of us, but perhaps at a very personal level, they were looking at what they would get as a result of this.
Definitely. And you see, I would look at what BBI was offering as a buffet. There are those who saw what they like in the document, in the proposals. There are those who probably thought about the question of representation, resource sharing. But more fundamentally, especially from a political point of view, there are those who looked at it and saw positions. And in the arithmetic, saw themselves in one of the positions. I mean, here you're talking about 5 positions: the president, the deputy, the prime minister, and 2 deputies. And when you look at it, you say, surely, at least I must land one of the positions. And when you do those, you do the mathematics and you see yourself in such a position, you will likely push for the document to pass. In hindsight, thinking, if this document passes, I'm likely to land a certain position. So when it doesn't happen, you have to reevaluate, you have to reflect, you have to rethink your strategy, and think it very quickly, because time, on the other hand, is quickly moving. We're now talking about 10 months to the general election. And so if you don't make your calculation right here and now, then you may make a mistake, and it may be too late to review your decision, so to say. So on one hand, you have the option of either vying for a parliamentary seat, then, because there was a promise that cabinet ministers can be appointed from parliament. That is one of the options that quite a number of these politicians had.
Including some governors, both 2-time and you know, the single ones who thought they might not get the seat in a re-election.
Absolutely. Vie for a parliamentary seat and hope to land a ministerial docket. That option is now quickly fading, bearing in mind that you still have a pending matter at the Supreme Court, the whole question of time, whether it is still possible to enact BBI, you know, between now and August 2022. Then secondly, there are those who looked at the positions that were being offered at the top, you know, the 5 positions. And even you had discussions around, let's move it to, if the president is male, then the running mate is female. If the presidential candidate is female, then the running mate is male.
So there was also positions of deputy prime minister. So if you have a prime minister who's male, you'd have a deputy prime minister who's female.
So
all of these things,
all those options were on the table. Now,
and you look around and say, okay, who are the prominent females in this room? I mean, let's face it, that's the kind of conversation that must have been going on.
So now, restore to factory settings. Here you have only 2 positions: the president and the deputy president, the presidential candidate and the running mate. So where does that take you back? To the original position you are in. If you're a governor, maybe seek a 2nd term. If you're a member of the National Assembly, seek another term. If you're a senator, seek another term. But at the same time, remember, the seat is not yours for the taking. You also defeated people in the previous election. So even in the subsequent election, you have contenders, competitors, who are not chilling out, relaxing, waiting for you to go somewhere else so that they can take the positions. They were also strategizing on how to get the positions. That explains the whole situation that you see in Kirinyaga. The governor has to contend with the former governor, Ndathi. She has to contend with Mother Karua. She has to contend with Wangui Ngereshi and any other candidate, any other aspirant who may be eyeing the seat. Not an easy race.
Linus, this is part of a very interesting dynamic that's going on in that part of the country. I mean, we've seen the kind of movement and political activity that we have not witnessed in a long time in central Kenya. I mean, you have, on the one hand, there is this UDA thing that is going on there where people are jostling who is closest to the deputy president, who is the main person in whatever part of central. And also, you have this other movement that is coming up between Mwangi Kiunjuri, Moses Kuria, Martha Karua, now appointed as the spokesperson of this group. What is that thing that's going on, and where are we going with all this? It's called Mount Kenya Forum, I think.
Mount Kenya Unity Forum.
Unity Forum, that brings together all these people. What would be their game plan, looking at the fact that UDA seems to have made some inroads in central Kenya? Then you have these people who are not small-time players. I mean, they've been around the block for a while, and they're saying, no, we are not running in there. We probably don't have a problem with the DP, but we are going to stay with our parties and we are going to push for something from where we are.
I think the region, just like the rest of the country, is struggling or grappling with the weakening of political parties. The state of political parties is really, really weak. You know, in central Kenya, there used to be obvious, strong parties. We would remember that the Democratic Party was quite a strong party for a long while. So was Ford Asili, that was associated with Kenneth Matiba. But things do not appear the same as we head into the election. There is no clearly strong party, which is why you see now leaders meeting, and each of them is a party leader. It's very interesting. I've just seen a tweet by former Kiambu Governor William Kabogo. What is the name of that party?
Tujenge, it's TWP. Tujijenge wa Kenya Party. Tujibebe wa Kenya Party. Yes, that's right. Wabebe?
It's Tujibebe. That is how desperate the situation is. So there'll be as many parties as the leaders that are meeting. and that is a very, very weird situation that we find ourselves in as a country. The old days, there'll be Democratic Party, and you know very well the entire of Nyeri, where Mwai Kibaki came from, will be Democratic Party. When it comes to Ford Asili, you know, you are talking of Murang'a and parts of Kiambu, and then there are remnants of Kanu within Kiambu as well. So this weakening of political parties, the decline of political parties, is actually coming to bite the country, region by region. Which is why Anne Waiguru would put it as an opinion question. Which party should I, what are you saying? Which one? Name it.
Mirror, mirror on the wall.
Yeah, mirror, mirror on the wall. Because parties don't mean much. But I want to agree with Yvonne, because what we've seen is only a beginning of a series of dramatic events. There'll be Anne Waiguru and there'll be so many other politicians that will make these movements. And it has been the tradition since 1992 when we went into multipartyism. And Kanu was really good at dramatizing it. It used to call defections kurudi nyumbani, going back home.
Seeing the light.
Yeah, seeing the light and all that. It'll be very, very interesting to see what February 9th looks like. February 9th, 2022.
Yes.
Because we will be approaching the closure of gates. You have to be somewhere by then for you to be a candidate in the 2022 elections. So it's going to be very, very interesting. But there's something else that I wanted to raise with regard to Anne Waiguru, and this is the timing. She seems to make new announcements depending on what political heat she's facing. Early this month, was it on the 4th of September, ESCC summoned her for questioning on 52.8 million shillings pending bill. That dates back, I think, to 2010, which she denies. She says no money. No money.
South Gariama settlement surveying services or something like that.
Yes, and she's disputing this and saying, no money was lost. This money has not been paid out, but she has been summoned by the ESCC. Anne Waiguru has certain ghosts that she has to contend with, even as she tries to chart her political way forward. One is NYS. It remains unresolved. NYS, and whether she had a role as CS for devolution really remains a pending question. Because there are two scenarios that look similar. She was impeached by the County Assembly of Kirinyaga, but cleared by the Senate. And she stood accused on the issue of NYS, but Parliament actually cleared her way back when she was CS devolution. These are also questions that, will come up, especially now that we're going into an election year, when people start talking about electability, credibility, integrity, and things like that. She may be facing some of these questions with regard to integrity.
But the same questions should have come
up. At a time, Linus, and you come in a bit, Francis, and cleared at a time when the voting patterns had been grossly affected by the impact of the handshake. I mean, if you look at the totality of votes that were taken in Parliament over a certain period of time following the handshake, there are certain patterns that you would see, and therefore sometimes it's difficult to know whether people actually voted on the basis of whatever evidence or lack of it before the House, or whether it was actually out of the political realities that existed at the time, because you could draw parallels between her and Waititu, for example, of Kiambu or Sonko. And if you were to look at the material evidence or the facts of the cases that were there, they were not entirely too dissimilar, yet they came out with totally different outcomes. And then that's something that is left for history to judge, but was quite curious.
Yeah, I wanted to say, very interesting observation you make there, Joe. If you look at you call them cutaways, the footage of that event where she was conducting that live opinion poll, the mover of the impeachment motion was with her. The majority leader in the Kirinyaga County Assembly was with her. These were the two main guys who pushed the impeachment. But now circumstances have changed. The situation on the ground seems slightly different, and they are now with her. Actually, the majority leader was even asking her, telling her directly that if you want to be elected again, come boarding a wheelbarrow.
Usipoteze wakati.
Alimwambia kuja kama umepanda wheelbarrow. Of course, the wheelbarrow is the symbol of the United Democratic Alliance Party. So these are the situations that you see on the ground. But to come back to Linus's question,
the burning point.
Yeah, the ghosts that Linus is talking about. In 2017, when she was elected governor, these same questions on NYS were present, were there. The people elected her then, even with the corruption question. So, how much is corruption an election question? That remains a big question.
Yvonne, jump in and take us to the break.
As we go to the break is, two things, or maybe one. A month, a day is a very long time in politics. Take a look at the massive shift, the turnaround of Waiguru in less than 6 months. In fact, in less than 3. And so to just
Actually, just to back you up, it's even slightly longer in central Kenya.
Absolutely. Yeah. There you go. It's even longer in central Kenya. That's absolutely right. And so for everybody who's, following politics, it's just to remember that we ain't seen nothing yet. Not from Waiguru, not from any of the politicians. So much is going to happen between now and then. So it's just, brace yourselves for the ride. And on that note, let's take a break. This is Newsgang. We'll be right back with much more. The hashtag is Newsgang. Keep tweeting. We'll see you in a bit.